Welcome back, Level Uppers. It's Larry, and this is episode 2 of LevelUpLarry's Going Green. There are many factors that contributed to the nostalgia of classic EverQuest. Some of these factors were just a matter of circumstance, with the big one simply being its timing. EverQuest revolutionized, and some would say, for better or worse, defined and established the 3D massively multiplayer RPG genre. It's uncommon these days to have a completely new genre introduced to the world of gaming. In all fairness, EverQuest technically wasn't the first 3D MMO to the market, but it was certainly the most groundbreaking one of its time. EverQuest's lasting influence of gameplay, strategy mechanics, and meta jargon that would be established for decades to come is undeniable. However, in classic EverQuest's case, the spotlight can sometimes expose oversight. Paving the way, classic EverQuest had a lot to learn relatively quickly, and in some cases, the full realization of things that needed to be tweaked or rebalanced was a constant work in progress. Generally speaking, things such as game-breaking exploits were usually addressed and corrected in quick fashion. But one of the unforeseen byproducts of the aforementioned oversight resulted in the creation of infamy around certain pieces of equipment in classic EverQuest, now labeled as legacy items. Simply put, legacy items were items originally deemed as normal when they were first introduced, but after some time in playtesting, were removed or modified, see nerfed, once it became apparent that they provided an unintended advantage. So, how do legacy items apply to Green Server, you might ask? In an effort to retain one of the integral parts of the classic EverQuest experience, Green Server will include these legacy items in their original forms for players to have a chance to acquire them for a brief amount of time. Now, let's review the classic EverQuest legacy items. First up, the box of Abu Kar, the perfect container. This box had some serious advantages. It was lightweight, it could hold giant items, it had 10 slot capacity, and it reduced everything within it to 0 weight. This is amazing for any class, but super ideal for monks and lower strength casters. Eventually the box is removed, but it does remain in circulation. Next, the Fanged Skull Stiletto. There's some classic mystery with this one around its true origin and what it will look like on Green Server, but the original Fanged Skull Stiletto dropped off the notorious, elusive Mayong Mistmore, the vampire boss of Castle Mistmore. As the timeline progresses, the dagger shifts over to being a quest reward from the NPC Hans Krieger, the rogue guildmaster in Kanos, who wants you to go kill the NPC Stanos Herkenor in High Pass and return his head. And eventually the dagger is removed altogether, with the exception of it being a potential giveaway for GM events such as the Best of the Best. The advantage of this dagger is that it's by far one of the better damage to delay ratio weapons that you can find in Classic, and this serves as a boon for a rogue's overall raw damage output. This item does remain in circulation even after its removal. Arguably one of the most prolific legacy items on this list is the Manastone. The Manastone, which drops off an Evil Eye in Lower Guck, converts 60 hit points into 20 mana. Combined with heals or hit point regeneration, this proved to be a very fast and efficient way of regenerating mana. Give this item to a cleric with complete heal, and it's just downright game-breaking. Said differently, the cleric could Mana Stone to low health, use complete heal, and still net mana positive. This fact, combined with the intense competitiveness of the camp down in Lower Guck, flagged this item for removal. And while it still remained in circulation after removal, Mana Stone owners would be unable to use this item in any content beyond Classic. From a Green Server perspective, it will not work in any zones in Kunark or in Belius. Let's talk about Rubicite Armor now. Rubicite Armor was a set of armor that dropped off of named lizards in Khazak-Dûl. The set originally had no race or class restrictions, and so this allowed non-plate wearing classes to have the benefit of plate armor class as well as the actual look, which happened to be a very attractive crimson red. The breastplate specifically had a regen effect of plus 3 HP, which was deemed overpowered versus the content difficulty required to obtain it. Next on the list is the Scimitar of the Mistwalker. This rare drop-off of Lady Vox gave Rangers and Druids a significant boost in damage. To achieve this, any Ranger or Druid at level 50 had the chance to summon a Mistwalker whenever attacking an enemy. The Mistwalker itself was a level 1 pet that double attacked for 96 points of damage, which you could immediately understand the massive edge that would provide, especially in classic EverQuest. Eventually, the Mistwalker effect was rebalanced, which caused the pet to automatically dissipate after one round of combat. The final classic EverQuest droppable legacy item was the Thex Dagger. While the dagger's damage to delay ratio wasn't completely remarkable, the plus 50 disease resistance most certainly was. To get that much disease resistance from a single item was absolutely unintended. And if you thought this weapon was limited to just your primary or secondary hand, it actually was capable of being equipped in your ranged slot. The quest for this dagger originates in Highkeep, and you essentially need to deliver a note to someone in Felwith. There was something about the quest NPC spawn that was buggy, and you needed 2 people to coordinate in order to turn this quest in. If you were able to do that, you could pretty much just farm Thex Daggers as much as you'd like. The obvious theme with all legacy items is that they all get removed, but this one also stays in circulation. There were a couple of other no-drop legacy items that I decided not to cover, with 2 exceptions. First, the Guise of the Deceiver. Flaunting a reputation that some would say is even bigger than a Manastone, the Guise of the Deceiver was a mask that dropped off of the Ghoul Assassin down in Lower Guck. The thing about this mask is that even though it's only wearable by Bard and Rogue, there were no class restrictions on who could cast it. And because of that, any adverse effects of the size of your race were virtually nullified. Using an Ogre Warrior as an example, you still reap the benefits of frontal stun immunity, but you don't have to worry about being, well, an Ogre. You have the form factor of a Dark Elf. And who wouldn't want to be a Dark Elf? After some time, the Guise of the Deceiver was changed to the Mask of Deception. And the new iteration of this mask did in fact only work for Bards and Rogues, as originally intended. And this overview of legacy items would not be complete if it weren't for the second no-drop legacy item I'm going to cover, Journeyman's Boots. If you didn't already know, there's a lot of running in classic EverQuest. And if you didn't have a shaman or druid nearby to cast Spirit of Wolf on you, well, Journeyman's Boots really solved that problem for all classes. Originally dropped from Drelsna in Najina, the content difficulty versus the effect was a little skewed. Not only that, but due to its popularity, it was almost impossible to get this camp if it was on lockdown. So the end result was that the J-Boots were moved over to a quest, and that pretty much solved that problem. Let's wrap this up. 20 years ago, players progressively discovered these items and may not have immediately understood their value. 10 years ago, players on Blue server knew about these items, but may not have accounted for the long-term economic value for holding on to them. Now, with Green server, there really are no secrets, and legacy item hoarding must be imminent. The Project 1999 team has alluded to a list mechanic, which they hope will alleviate some of the camp drama that will inevitably happen, while also giving everybody a chance to get some of this highly coveted loot. At the time of this recording, there aren't many details around this new mechanic, but I can assure you that most people that are planning on playing on Green server are paying very close attention to how this will all play out. Hopefully this recap was helpful. In episode 3, we will be going through the Green server checklist to make sure that you are prepared and ready to play on Green server. This content is supplemental to what I do over on Twitch. And leading up to Green Launch, we are doing a series of in-game events every Tuesday and Thursday starting at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. Thanks so much for watching, and hopefully see you soon. Level up hype!